also discussing global classical literature series, and in global literature classical literature, today I will be discussing Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. So, although it was Rubaiyat by Omar Khayyam was written in Persian language, but it was Edward Fitzgerald who translated this into English. So this is indeed a privilege that for all of us, that we got this classical thing in English, and other if Edward Fitzgerald have not translated, we would have not able to read what he has written, what the classic Rubaiyat are by Omar Khayyam. So let us discuss about the life of Omar Khayyam first. Omar Khayyam was born on 18 May 1048, and he died on 4th December 1131. He is considered a genius, uh, like Leonardo da Vinci. So he was a Persian mathematician, astronomer, philosopher, and poet. So he was an all-rounder. He a versatile genius. He is also accredited with writing treatises on mechanics, geography, mineralogy, music, and Islamic theology. So indeed, he was a genius, not only in terms of literature, but also whether it is mathematics, astronomy, or philosophy, even mechanics, geography, mineralogy, music, and Islamic theology. So he was born in Nishapur in northeastern Iran. So Iran has given very classic poet or writer to the world, and Umar Khayyam is one of them. He moved to Samarkand at a young age. So like Uzbek now, which is in Uzbekistan. Samarkand is now in Uzbekistan. So Samarkand is also considered as a center of learning. So he moved to Samarkand at a young age and obtained his education there. So he studied in Samarkand. Afterward, he moved to Bukhara. Now, currently Bukhara is in Uzbekistan, and established himself as one of the major mathematician and astronomer of the medieval period. He is the author of one of the most important treatises on algebra written before modern times. So, being a mathematician, his contribution is not limited to any specific genre. He has contributed to mathematics also. So, he wrote important treatises on algebra written before modern time, and like treatise on demonstration of problem of algebra in 1070. We all know that algebra was invented by Al-Khwarizmi, and algebra is a little bit standard form or modernized form of the word Al-Khwarizmi. So he also contributed to calendar reform. As a philosopher, Khayyam could be understood from two rather distant sources. One is through his Rubaiyat, and the other through the uh, through the evaluation of his works by scholars and philosophers like Abul Fazl Behaki, Nizami Aruzi, and Al Zamakshari, who all have referred to him as the philosopher of the world. So he was given the title philosopher of the world. There have been widely divergent views on the religious aspect of Khayyam. He is seen both as an agnostic hedonist and as a mystical Sufi poet influenced by Platonic tradition. So, Platonic means spiritual, aesthetic. So he was also influenced by Plato. Some, like Christopher Hitchens, identify Khayyam as a skeptic whose poetry satirized the claim and practices of religion. Outside Iran and Persia, Persian speaking countries, Khayyam has had an impact on literature and society through the translation of his works and popularity by other scholars. See, this is the power of translation. Uh, any work no matter how great it is, but it need to be popularized. It should not be confined to only one language. And in Persian also we have now, because they all have been translated into English, so we have seen lots of great work like that of Rumi and Omar Khayyam and many other poets. So even Ghalib, whatever Ghalib wrote was mostly influence, has a Persian influence. So uh, the most influential of all the work done on Omar Khayyam, or all the translation done on Omar Khayyam, the greatest one is by Edward Fitzgerald. Edward Fitzgerald was born on 1809 and he died in 1883. He made Khayyam the most famous poet of the East in the West. So, an Oriental poet became famous in the Occidental world by an Occidental man, and that is Fitzgerald, because credit goes to him to make Khayyam popular in the Western world. So he did through his celebrated translation an adaptation of some of Khayyam's quatrain. Quatrain means 4 lines poem in the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. Omar Khayyam's poetry is called as Rubai or Rubaiyat. These are poetic rather than literal translation, and have fascinated the readers in all parts of the world for nearly 2 centuries. So he did in 1800. Other English translation of parts of the Rubaiyat exist, but those by Fitzgerald are the most well known. Uh, Not that even our Hindi poet Harivansh Rai Bachchan was greatly influenced by Umar Khayyam's Rubaiyat, and his influence is seen in his work like Madhushala. Madhushala is an example of Rubaiyat of Umar Khayyam. So let me discuss about this Rubaiyat also. So Rubaiyat of Umar Khayyam is the title given by Edward Fitzgerald to his translation of selection of quatrain originally written in Persian and numbering about 1,000, attributed to Umar Khayyam. We have already discussed that he was a versatile genius and he was a Persian poet, mathematician and astronomer. The nature of translation of the quatrain depends on what interpretation one gives to Khayyam's philosophy. There have been different versions of the book according to the selection and arrangement to support one interpretation or the other. Some, like Nicholas, have viewed Khayyam as a Sufi, while others have seen sign of mysticism, even atheism, or conversely devote and orthodox Islam in him. So some people consider him that he is a example of Islamic ideology. Some think that he is an atheist. He is not so Islamic. He is an So Fitzgerald has given the Rubaiyat a distinct fatalistic spin. See, any translated work can become famous when it is done in a very nice way, and if a person does by heart. So Edward Fitzgerald has was very much inspired by Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. So he was himself inspired by the personality of Omar Khayyam. So he thought to translate it, and because of his great translation, Omar Khayyam was famous, became famous throughout the world, not only in the Western world, in the Eastern also. And before that, he was just confined or to the Persian speaking world. Or though people were beyond Persian world also, people knew him, but his work, people started reading his work after the translation by Edward Fitzgerald and then other also. So it is widely claimed that Fitzgerald softened the impact of Khayyam's nihilism and his preoccupation with the mortality and transience of all things. The translation by Edward Fitzgerald became so popular that five editions came between 1859 and 1889. So it was published, five issues, five editions were published from 1859 to 1889. So 1859, it was the first edition published in 1859. Of the five editions published, four were published under the authorial control of Fitzgerald. The fifth edition, which contained only minor changes from the fourth, was edited after his death on the basis of manuscript revision Fitzgerald has left. So the fifth edition was published posthumously. As a work of English literature, Fitzgerald version has been greatly influential. The term Rubaiyat by itself has come to be used to describe the quatrain rhyme scheme that Fitzgerald used in his translation. For example, AABA. So rhyme scheme in his poem is AABA. It has been stated that Fitzgerald made many subtle changes to Khayyam's quatrain. Quatrain, I have already told, it is four lines poem are called as quatrain. Many of the verses are paraphrased, and some of them cannot be confidently traced to any one of Khayyam's quatrain at all. So when a translator translates, sometimes he makes changes also. This is what Edward Fitzgerald did, and everybody has his own thinking. So and a translation and a translator also put his her effort. I myself is a translator, so I can understand that. That is why some critic informally refers to the Fitzgerald English version as the Rubaiyat of Fitz Omar. So because of his influence, many people called it the Rubaiyat of Fitz Omar, which recognize the liberty Fitzgerald inflicted on his purported source, as well as credit Fitzgerald for the considerable portion of the translation that is deemed his own creation. So the form and the content of the quatrain are so alluring that the book is read with great enthusiasm and interest. And because of this work that Fitzgerald has become famous around the world. So I will be reading some of his Rubaiyat translated in English by Edward Fitzgerald. The first is, awake, for the morning in the bowl of night has flung the stone that put the star to flight. And lo, the hunter of the east has caught the sultan turret in a loose light. So here it is all A, and but night flight, caught night flight light. So AABA. The rhyme scheme is AABA. Then the second is, dreaming when dawn's left hand was in the sky, I heard a voice within the traverse cry, awake, my little ones, and fill the cup, before life's liquor is its in its cup be dry. So the rhyme scheme is AABA, sky, cry, cup, dry. AABA. Then the third is, and as the cock crew, those who stood before the tavern shouted, open them the door. You know how little while we have to stay, and one departed may return no more. So here also AABA. Then the fourth is, now the new year reviving old desire, the thoughtful soul to solitude retires, where the white hand of Moses on the bough put out and Jesus from the ground suspire. So this is based on the biblical allusion, and not many people know that Bible is also considered as sacred. By Old Testament of Bible is considered as a holy book by the Muslim also. In English, they called in English, though it is called Bible, and in Arabic they called it as one of the book which is given by directed by the God, means these are considered as heavenly book. Torah by of Jews, Bible by Christian, and Quran of Muslim. All the three books are considered as holy books or heavenly book by the God. So now the fifth one, Now, fifth Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. Iram, India is gone with all its rose, and Jamshed, seven cup where no one knows, but still the wine, her ancient ruby yield, and still a garden by the water blow. So here also the rhyme scheme is rose, nose, yield, blow. Yeah, means A, A. Now the sixth Rubaiyat, and David lips a lock, but in divine. High piping Pahalvi with wine. Wine, wine. Red wine, the nightingale cry to the rose. That yellow cheeks of her to incarnate. So here there is a description of David. He might be King David from Bible, and then there is a description of wine in the second and third line. Because of this means he has included wine in his rubaiyat, which is considered as which is prohibited in Islam. Because of this, I think Omar Khayyam, many people think that Omar Khayyam was an atheist. Then the seventh, come fill the cup, and in the fire of spring, the winter garment of repentance fling. The bird of time has put a little way to fly, and lo, the bird is on the wing. Rhyme schemes: spring, fling, way, wing, means A. Then the eighth one is, and look, a thousand blossom with the day, woke and a thousand scattered into clay. And this first summer month that bring the rose shall take Jamshed and Kaikobad away. So there is a description of Jamshed again in this. It was also described in his fifth Rubaiyat and then eighth Rubaiyat. Then the ninth is, but come with old Khayyam and leave the lot of Kaikobad and Kais Khosru for God. Let Rustam lay about him as he will, or Hatim Tai cry supper heed them not. See, Hatim Tai is a figure which is considered as a legend in all the Abrahamic religion, whether it is Jew or Christianity or Islam. In India also lots of serials or movies have been adapted on him. Hatim Tai, he's a very famous humanitarian. Then the 10th one, with me along some strip of herbage strewn, that just divide the desert from the zone, where name of slave and sultan's scars is known, and pity Sultan Muhammad on his throne. So here is a description of a King Sultan Mahmud. Then 11th, here with a loaf of bread beneath the bough, a flask of wine, a book of verse and thou. Beside me singing is the wilderness, and wilderness is paradise now. Again there is a description of wine. Then the 12th one, how sweet is mortal sovereignty, think some. Other, how blessed the paradise to come. I take the cash in hand and wave the rest. Oh, the brave music of a distant drum. Means he was he was a music lover also, and he had a great knowledge of music, which is also can be seen in his Rubaiyat. Then 13, look to the rose that blows about us low. Laughing she says, into the world I blow. At once the silken tassel of my purse, tear and treasure on the garden throw. Now 14, the worldly hope men set their heart upon, turn ashes or it prosper and anon, like snow upon the desert dusty face. Lightning a little hour or two is gone. Now 15, and those who husbanded the golden grain, and those who flung it to the wind like rain, I like to know such aureate earth are turned, as buried one when one dug up again. Now 16, think it in this battered caravanserai, whose doorways are alternate night and day. How Sultan after Sultan with his pomp, above his hour or two and went his way. So he is called as philosopher, and this is quite reflected in his poem Rubaiyat quatrain, because here he is describing that Anybody becomes sultan, but he has an end and everybody has an end. Now 17. They say the lion and the lizard keep. The code where Jamshed glorified and drank deep. And Behram, that great hunter, the wild ass, stamp over his head and he lies fast asleep. So this is, I think, some stories of some legend in Persia about Jamshed and Behram. Then 18. I sometimes think that never blown so red. The rose as where some buried Caesar bled. That every hyacinth the garden wears drop in its lap from some once lovely head. Now 19. And this delightful herb whose tender green fledges the river slip on which we lean. Aha! Lean upon it lightly for those who know from what once lovely lips it springs. Now 20th. Ah, my beloved, fill the cup that clears, today of past regret and future fear. Tomorrow, why tomorrow I may be, myself with yesterday's 7,000 years. So there are 75 Rubaiyat in it, but I have read 20. I hope this much is enough, and I will again discuss some other classical poet belonging to any language, whether they are from Persian, Arabic, Hindi, Sanskrit, Bengali, Punjabi, or Spanish, Italian, any language. So I hope this will be liked by all. Thank you, everyone.